Hello and welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Dan and I'm here to bring you another FPL video. In this one, we're going to be looking at my team selection ahead of game week 1. Really excited to reveal where my draft is at after plenty of tinkering, and with the deadline fast approaching, let's have a look at what the team is shaping up to be like. But before we do that, let's just have a look at the launch day draft that I put together over on Twitter, and just out of curiosity, just wanted to see how much the draft would change between then and today, essentially, of recording this content. And to be honest, there are a lot of personnel that are the same in this draft. We've got Jordan Pickford, which I've decided to go with in the end. We've got Estepinian as well, which I thought was going to be a hard lock with those opening fixtures as well. We've got Saka, we've got Haaland, we've got Matoma as well. There's a couple of individuals, of course, that have changed in terms of personnel, but price points here were very, very close, I think, to being spot on. We did end up spending the 100 million on day one. We didn't have any room for any money in the bank, but I think Trent being downgraded to a £5.5 million defender instead now has really ended up freeing up a lot more flexibility for the draft. So let's have a look at the goalkeepers and what I've decided to do then. So as mentioned, Pickford does make the starting 11 for me. We ended up spending £8.5 million on the goalkeepers, which is what I really wanted to do. It's worth noting Jordan Pickford could absolutely be Sam Johnston as well. I really like both of those options. I think there's still some question marks on Flecken of Brentford for me to really be confident that he's going to produce something like Raya did in those previous seasons at the same price. I'm not confident that he'll put as many saves out as Raya, to be honest. Not yet, at least, anyway. I think Pickford and Johnston are fine options at £4.5 million. And of course, with news now of Turner signing from Arsenal to Nottingham Forest, he becomes an available £4 million starting option for us. And to be honest, some of the rotation is really, really strong with both Pickford and Johnston as well, which we'll get into shortly. It is worth noting with Turner, though, that we can't get overly excited with him because there is still a possibility Nottingham Forest sign Dean Henderson from Manchester United as well. And we'd anticipate that he does come in as that number one. I have heard several reports, though, that Dean Henderson is suffering from a little bit of an injury, which is why Turner may get the sort of starting number one slot, at least in those opening maybe 5, 6, 7 game weeks, which is what we're really looking for, to be honest. So let's have a look at how the rotation would shape up with these two goalkeepers then. As you can see on screen here, there are a plethora of green fixtures available, but of course Turner, more importantly, comes in when Pickford has some tricky fixtures, which is where the rotation is so key. So if we highlight on the next screen here which matches Turner will feature in for us, it is of course Sheffield United, Burnley and Luton, all three promoted teams from the Championship this season, and they're all home games for Nottingham Forest as well. So you can see why the appeal is so strong for a £4 million goalkeeper that has these possible fixtures, when Pickford would have Liverpool away, Arsenal at home and Villa away in those respective game weeks. So really tricky fixtures for Everton. However, Turner can come in and really make a difference there for us if he sticks with that number one slot in goal. So very happy to go with this combination. As you can see, there's a fantastic array of fixtures to target between game weeks 1 and 9 with this pairing. And it's worth noting that Sam Johnston is very, very similar in game weeks 2, 5 and 9. Crystal Palace also have some challenging fixtures, and of course Matt Turner could come in instead of Johnston as well. So it's really down to yourself on personnel choice between Pickford and Johnston if you want to go with a £4.5 million goalkeeper, in my opinion. Then we have the rest of the defensive lineup here, totaling now £32.5 million of spending. We got John Stones in that £5.5 million slot. I'm more than happy, I think, going in with a Manchester City defender in the opening game weeks. I did the same last season with Kyle Walker as well, and then ended up moving him on, I think, once rotation started to come into play with cup fixtures and European fixtures starting to ramp up. So I think John Stones is definitely an ownership for me that I'm comfortable with for at least those opening maybe 5, 6 game weeks. And then there is maybe options to move to Luke Shaw, maybe Ben Chilwell, Reece James, someone of the same price point, of course, with price changes, all things considered. But I think that's a price point that I like and an individual that I like in that slot. We then have Gabriel and Estepinian. They've been unchanged in these 5 million slots for me pretty much since I decided to not go with Trent, right? Downgrading him all the way to Gabriel and putting more money into the midfield is where I ended up going. And this is what you see on screen now. So Gabriel, more than confident, owning him in those opening fixtures. Potentially could come somebody like a Pedro Porro for the same price, Alex Moreno. We've we've also got some money in the bank in this draft as well. So we could do some interesting things later on as well in our defense. We've then also opted for Pau Torres as our 4.5 million defender of choice. There are a plethora of options available though, so definitely again take this personnel choice with a pinch of salt. I just personally back Villa to have a very, very strong opening run of performances under Unai Emery, and of course Pau Torres is not exactly unfamiliar with that managerial style, but he's played for Villarreal, he's played under Emery already, so I think he's going to slot pretty seamlessly into that Villa defensive line. We've also got Kabore making way instead of Bell, of the same team, essentially the same cost. It's still a 4 million defender, and there are other options there. You've got Bayer of Burnley, you've also got Baldock of Sheffield United, of course, as well, could be there. But I really do like Kabore. I think he's got a little bit more of an attacking threat and a possible option for us if we really, really need it on the bench. Then we go on to our midfield here. As you can see, it is a midfield 5, so we can reveal that it is a 3-5-2 formation with a 1.5 premium, if you include Rashford as that half premium slot, of course. And look at the individuals that we've got on this team, guys. It's Matoma in that 6.5 million slot with Rashford, Saka, Fernandes, and Martinelli. All, I think, very explosive midfielders that have fantastic opportunities to haul in these opening fixtures. Of course, the United boys in Tottenham away could be a little bit of a tricky one in game week 2, but I'm more than happy with going in with double United attack for those opening 3 fixtures, and then maybe making some assessments from game week 3 onwards for a lot of these individuals, even including the Arsenal boys as well, just in case of minutes or any risks or doubts. So definitely love this 5-man midfield. It does obviously come at a cost of no Mo Salah or anybody like that. No kind of real route to him in this draft, unfortunately, but I really do like how the money has been spread across it. Let me know your thoughts, though, below. Then we have a look finally at our strike force, and that is Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins with McAtee of Luton filling that 4.5 million slot. Again, I don't want to read too much into that. I think Balogun's of Arsenal has been linked with a move to West Ham, who potentially could become an option. But at this point, I don't think we need to go 3 people deep into our squads on the bench. I'm more than happy owning Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins as those 2 front men. Watkins for me is an interesting choice because he covers that 8 million price point. It's argued that you could probably save another million and go for Jackson if you back Chelsea and him to do very well. I think you've also got options of going Darwin Nunez if you want to go a little bit more risky and free up some more money. But ultimately, I've still got 0.5 in the bank with going with Ollie Watkins, and I'm happy to do that in the medium term. I think he's a very consistent player, fantastic amount of minutes. He's on penalties as well, nailed option. So for me, he makes the squad. Of course, Haaland as well, one of the unquestionables. Now we can talk about, I suppose, different options that we do have. With that 0.5 million in the bank, we have got the availability of going someone like Matoma up to a 7 million slot like Bowen. We could go Sterling if he emerges as maybe the penalty taker, for example, for Chelsea, or looks good under Pochettino. We've got Richarlison as well that could come to the forefront. Now we know Harry Kane is on the verge of a possible move to Germany. So I really do think that 0.5 can help us there. We've also started with some very, very high-priced midfielders in, of course, Saka, Rashford and Fernandes. These can all be downgraded as well to the likes of a 7.5 million maybe, and we can just do some tinkering come game week 3 when we want to maybe move for some different individuals. You know, the likes of, say, Son could be an interesting pick, and Saka and Fernandes for extra 0.5 million could easily become him in game week 3 as well, if Richarlison doesn't look like he's on firing form. So lots of options here, lots of flexibility. I really love this draft. Let me know down in the comments below what you'd change about this one, what you think you'd do differently. I'd love to hear from you guys. Then finally, before we do move into a wrap up of the video, I have just got those open thoughts to kind of showcase and share before we do lock this draft in essentially tomorrow. I have got that kind of consciousness that I don't have that third Manchester City asset in Foden, Grealish, maybe Alvarez. I think Alvarez is probably the most tricky one to reach to, just because he's that awkward 6.5 million price point of a forward line that just, he doesn't have any direct replacement. So I think it's hard to justify or warrant him in a squad, even if we get news that he's going to start for Manchester City tomorrow night. I think Grealish and Foden are alternate options to, let's say, Martinelli. We could downgrade him and give ourselves $1 million in the bank and just proceed with a 7.5 million midfielder instead. So that's definitely something that's on my mind. And of course, the last but not least, the Egyptian king Mo Salah. It's going to be really difficult to reach him in this draft without some essential, 2 or 3 moves. And it's going to be impossible to reach him in game week 2 for that Bournemouth fixture, just using the free transfer, for example. So we're just going to have to almost hope that he blanks in that game week for all of the Salah owners and captainers, or we just ride it out and hope that the rest of our midfielders deliver in their respective fixtures. So something that I'm definitely thinking about. And finally, as mentioned, the 4.5 million goalkeeper slot, Pickford or Johnston, very close between the two, although Pickford's just ahead for me at this moment. And then finally, once again, before signing off on this video, guys, I will remind you, these are the mini leagues this year. We do have a prize league, open game week 1 to 5. And of course, anyone who wins this league will be eligible for that football related prize at the end of the season. So be sure to follow me at FPL_link on Twitter to help reach out to you when you are the lucky winner. Of course, again, it is only open game weeks 1 to 5. On closure of game week 5, I will stop all future entries, and that's to essentially reward those of you that have been loyal to the community essentially and just long-term viewers, as opposed to anybody that joins later on in the season. And then of course, if you do want to join just for a bit of bragging rights in an alternative mini league that doesn't have a prize and is just about a bit of fun, really open all season, then use that code in the second box below. So that's going to wrap up the video, guys. Thank you very much again for all the support that you've shown through pre-season. If you haven't seen yet, I have announced that unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, deadline streams on Saturdays will be heavily reduced. There'll be no way of me being able to put out as consistent ones as I did last season, unfortunately. However, on Friday night deadline, so of course the game week 1 tomorrow night I should be around for that one. So look out for that deadline stream if you're interested. Of course, if you're new to the channel and you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button below, guys. And finally, if you enjoyed the content, hit that thumbs up for me. Thanks again for all the support and watching me. Take care, and I will see you in the game week 1 deadline stream. Take care. Bye-bye.